Well, ladies and gentlemen, get up and get loud, as someone would say. It is race day. We are getting started with the final, and we're going to be starting off right away with Arctic Split by POPOUETTE, right with 30 seconds to go before the map actually starts. And so I think we should actually get a little bit of a gander at the map. So there it is, Arctic Split by POPOUETTE, one of the two submissions from POPOUETTE in this final map pack. We are going for the opening phase, of course. Which would be the banker stage, but of course there is no longer a banker stage since there is no point loss at stake right here. Anyway, we're getting started right here, right now. Get up and get loud. It's time to go racing. Good luck, have fun. Here we go. Map 1 out of 5.
Open Grand League finals are live, baby. We're going on to Arctic Split, and right now taking a look at Grenady, who is the fastest player in the field.
And Worker already making a mistake. He's full stop 18. He's dead.
That is a big mistake from Worker, not the start to the step he was looking for. Falling down, that is going to be 7 seconds behind, and at this point just has to get ready for the next map, I think. But yeah, I want to mention Grenady here, a 657 on paper that he's gotten in practice. Also Soldier with a 659, and Dofald also with a 659. The 3 players in the field that have managed to get a time under 7 minutes in practice here. I think we can expect to see a time a little bit over 7 minutes in the race here, as everyone's a bit shaken loose the nerves on the first map. But we do see Otak in the lead, we see Grenady in second place, Enner in third, and the players are coming towards the first identity section.
First identity section, and it's a battle between Otak and Grenady. Grenady trying to retain the lead over Otak as we're moving through the jumps from the perspective of Enner right here, and he had a pretty slow landing, so he allows Cap through, and he potentially allows Energize to go through, but Snow had a bit of a weird landing here, so he's going to battle with Enner for the benefit of P6. Oh, Enner touches, and it's going to be game over. Meanwhile, it's Hydra, who managed to smoke pretty much everyone at the identity and take the lead into lap 2 with a 112.120 ahead of Grenady, and Otak completing your top 3 with Cap just right behind, snapping at their heels.
And we've lost a lot of players already. Big mistake by Jean-René, falling down 10 seconds. Big mistake by Enner, who was in the lead before the identity. 3.6 seconds behind Revolution, also on the heels in this race. But many players have made it through. We have a very close top 10 now. All players within just 1 second of each other. And it is Grenady with the expected pace has overtaken Hydra, or is about to here with that speed for the first place. Really showing that the practice he's put in here has paid off. Same cannot be said so far though for Soldier, who has made a mistake, although he is the second fastest player on paper here.
Yeah, currently Soldier down in P11. Top 10 currently held by Nixaltica, who's currently battling tooth and nail to take on that top 10 position. Meanwhile, on the identity, we go in. Grenady heads into the lead, and Otak with a slow landing at the end of the first jump allows Snow to go through, and Snow will be moving on to fourth place. Oh, that's a huge F in the chat for Snow, who turtled over and actually flipped over by touching one of the poles, and Grenady has slowed down dramatically as well, and Cap takes the lead into lap number 3 with a 109.084. Hydra in second position, and so far it's a French 1-2-3 with Otak completing the temporary rostrum, Grenady down to P4, and Carl, 2006 world champion, currently sitting in 5th, with Solia in 6th, fighting tooth and nail.
Yeah, Snow there. Very unfortunate mistake, just straight into the pole, and you can see how much that costs. One crash like that, and you're instantly out of the fight for first. Otak almost jumping off there in third place, very close to failing. But a great showing from him so far. Wasn't actually sure what his pace is on this track, as he's nowhere to be seen in the top on the time attack rankings, but here he's doing really well so far in third. But it's been a Cap show so far, as we're halfway in the race, is leading by almost a second here, and if he can keep this up, this is a Grand League worthy performance here from Cap, who's trying to climb back in. Let's follow him in the identity, gets the first jump. Looks very, very controlled here. Gonna turn our attention a little bit back.
Oh! He jumped too tight, and he's dead. Now Hydra moves up into the lead. Cap is gonna drop out of the top 8 as a result of that. Hydra assumes the lead for MTP Esport with a gap of a second to Otak almost, but Solia, meanwhile, in P4, battling for P2, takes the fastest lap and drops a sub 109 with a 108.995.
Wow, and I don't want to mention the caster's curse, but that is very unfortunate for the one and only Cap, who was looking so good there. And Soldier, what a comeback. He was 2 seconds down in 11th place just a few laps ago. Now almost climbing back up into first to challenge Hydra here. So he's driven a very fast 108, and if he can keep this up, that is an imminent first place waiting to happen. Grenady here, though, following closely, keeping up with that pace. And now Hydra is in that dominant first place with only 2 more laps to go. The field is very stretched out here. Looks like we have about 5 players battling for the win. That being Otak and Carl as well, as we go into the 4th identity here.
Well, you said that he had a pretty good advantage, but he got reeled in 4/10 in the space of a few checkpoints, Hydra, so it's going to be really tough to keep up with Granati in the final 2 laps. Let's actually see on the identity how he goes. Oh, he's had a slow landing. That's just an opportunity for Granati to slide through and move through into the lead at the end of the identity and take the lead for the race for the first time, I think it was, or maybe did he take the lead a little bit earlier on? I can't really remember. My smooth brain can't really keep up, but Hydra is not giving up without a fight. He's currently battling for the lead alongside Granati. Then Soya makes it a 3-way fight for the lead, and he left Carl completely behind. P4 for Carl with 1.1 second of a gap to the leader. Otak in P5.
And what a battle we have here. The 3 players now, 1 second ahead of everyone. It is just going to come between these 3, I think. They've been looking very solid so far. No real big mistakes, and that is what you need to win here. Granati extending to about 0.4 of a second. The speed you carry out of this wall is very important, and it looks like he just extends here. That wheel steering very smooth, and you can see he's just extending the gap here. It was 0.4 of a second, probably about 0.5 here with those lines he's driving. 0.57. Granati looking very dominant here as we're entering the second last identity here, the penultimate one. 6 more jumps to go for all these 3 players. Let's see how they handle them. The first one down now. Hadra having to release. He's going to drop down pretty far to the 2 others. Soldier versus Granati now. Granati getting the second one good. Same for Soldier. 0.8 of a second. And the last one here, Granati getting it good. Soldier getting it good. And I think we have a head-to-head fight into the last lap.
In the meantime, Carl, the 2006 World Champion, has dropped down from P4 down to P9 thanks to his scruffy identity. He's 7 seconds down on the leader. Meanwhile, Cap is down to P11. So yeah, you can see barely any other Frenchman other than Hydra and Otak as well as Energize are currently in the fight for the lead, and you can see almost all of the bottom scorers are currently French drivers. The only exception being Revolution, sitting in P11 with 11 seconds down on the leader. Meanwhile, Granati has extended the gap to 9/10 of a second compared to Solia, and Hydra in P3 is trying his best to catch up to the Belgian driver from Numalops, but it's not really faring that well so far. Solia is able to keep up. Meanwhile, Granati has a pretty confidence advantage. He's looking cool, calm, and collected into the very first map right here. This was actually his best map of the map pack, and a map pack that he says doesn't really suit him very well. He's going to go to the identity right here, right now. First jump coming up from Granati. Is he going to be able to make it smoothly? Yes, he will. Solia as well, and Hydra as well, but he's looking really close, actually, Hydra. Granati's second jump. Oh my god! The 5 per second is looking closer than we thought. Meanwhile, Granati heads into the final jump and will win on Arctic Split. Meanwhile, Hydra and Solia with a better line will snap Hydra for P2. Hydra P3, Otak finishing 4th, Energize in 5th, Nick Soltica finishing in P6, good job from the American driver, Uta in P7, Carl down to P8, Enner in P9, Cap in P10, Revel finishing in P11, Snow in P12, Jordan in P13, Dark finishing in P14, Worker will be coming towards the final jump now to finish in P15, and final part is going to be Wazil finishing in 16th, the Game War driver, not really faring too well in this first map.
And what a great round by Granati there. 7 flat here is a very respectable time, something that only 3 other players in this field have managed to do in time attack. So you said it was his best map. He shows up here, gets the fastest lap and the win on the map, and that's going to be 20 points for him going on to map number 2 now. So a great start for Granati here, looking for the super final.
Indeed, great start from the alternate X-Nax player from Germany, as we're going to be heading into map number 2. And I must be noted that I don't really know what maps are coming up, because I think it was a random map order. If it wasn't, it wasn't communicated earlier on. I must be completely transparent to you, so we're just going to be going through to map number 2, and you will excuse the sometimes long loading times, but somehow the game actually decides to be cooperative a little bit and move on to map number 2, which is going to be none other than Frozen Fridges, the map from HEASTO that we saw already from Step 3 alongside To The Peak, possibly 2 of the craziest maps with one of the most creative identities in this particular instance, that being these U-turns on the ice, these uphill U-turns with reactor boost, which can be pretty tricky to get, especially with the exit of it being a final jump in freewheel between the trees.
Yeah, and we can take a look at the time attack rankings here going into this track. We have Soldier once again with the fastest personal best, a 6:32. We also have Carl with the second fastest time, a 6:33. Cap with a 6:33. And then very interestingly, we had Snow, who set a personal best on this track, a 6:34 just 20 minutes ago. So just before the start of the match, Snow here looks like he has the pace down, just got a new personal best. And considering he only got 12th place on the first map here, perhaps this could be a good comeback for Snow into the match. On Frozen Fridges, gonna follow through the first lap here. This is a very flat track. It's not too... we're going to see very close battles here. It's not too many parts where you can gain or lose time. Only a few slides and micro optimizations in turns. That makes the difference between these players, and they're all trying to stick to the same line here.
Making the first mistake, touching the wall at the entry to the dirt, and the American driver is going to be dead last, and Hydra is going to be at the tail end of the leading group, who are currently regrouped within 6/10 of each other right now. So we're going to go through the identity right now. It's Cap, Solia, and Granati. Granati moving up to P2 before the identity.
Yeah, and you can see it here. This is the identity section, the main obstacle on the track that the players have to pass. And they have to turn around inside the checkpoint here. Make sure that you go high enough to touch the checkpoint, else it will not count your lap if you go too early. So they're just trying to make smooth curved lines there on the ice. Try to keep as much speed here for the ending. Jump between the trees. And now we're going into the second lap. It is Pack getting the fastest first lap here at 1:8:60. Granati close behind, and Solja following just 0.2 behind them again. So very, very close battle up front. But we are seeing some familiar suspects here.
Yeah, seeing some familiar suspects. And by the way, you actually reversed the letters of Cap for some reason when you actually pronounce the name of the Oplum player, but that's alright. He does indeed hold the fastest lap with a 1:08.602, but he's in the battle with Granati for the lead. And so far, it is advantage to the German for about 1/10 of a second, but we're looking at a really hot top 3 fight right here between Solia, Granati, and Cap. 3 different nationalities once again being represented in the battle for the lead right now, with Otak a little bit further behind, currently being swarmed by other fellow countrymen and other opponents, with Revel, Snow, Dark, and Carl also joining in the mix. Otak currently trying to fend off Worker for P4, but it's really looking to be really difficult heading towards the second lap of the race.
I think Revolution has missed the checkpoint. You can see they're jumping very far down. That is the most costly mistake he can make here, is to turn around too soon, and that puts Revolution out now for 2 races in a row. So not a great start for Revo here, but still 3 more maps coming up after this one that he could potentially come back on. For now, though, just has to drive to the finish with his tail between his legs, if you could say it that way. Granati still fire pace up front. Solja in second, same positions as they were on the first map. And I wanted to pick up on Snow before the start of this map. Just set a personal best, currently sitting midfield here in 6th place, trying to battle it out here with Otak as he overtakes Carl. So he has
Solja.
Solja. It's a big mistake.
Solia making
there
a huge mistake.
And yeah, losing about a second here, jumping as well, not getting onto the line he was looking for. And I think this is going to cost about 1.5 seconds at the end of it. 1.5 behind Granati now. So Solja finding himself midfield as we're midway through the race into the identity. Turnarounds are coming through, and let's see what we get now. At the end of the lap.
At the end of the lap, let's see what we get so far. It's Granati, Worker, and Cap in that order at the exit of the final U-turn. And it's looking to be pretty good, looking to be cemented that way as Granati continues to hold the lead of the race and improves the fastest lap, immediately beaten by Worker with a 1:04.916, credited to the Lille Esport Club driver. And yeah, you said that it was one of the maps that produces closer racing. It has been indeed the case on the Trackmania Grand League steps that his has been played on steps 3 through 5, if I'm not mistaken. And we've seen pretty close pack, but so far it seems to be contradicting the contradicting its stigma a little bit, since we can see the field somewhat spread out, a little bit further spread out than we have seen a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is because Granati is just driving incredibly fast up front that it is being spread out this way, but many players I think are driving a decent pace here, just not really wanting to risk that little bit extra to keep up with the German. Probably looking for a mid position here to get some decent points, because when you're driving that fast, when you're driving 1:04 laps here, you are really taking some big risks, and that can cost you big time, like Revolution here, who is so far the only person to miss that turnaround. So the others have mostly kept it clean here going to the next lap. Once again, 2 best laps here. Worker 1:04.8. Granati also driving another 1:04. So they are really going fast here, and I think we could have a low 6:30 race coming in through. 6:33 perhaps for the winning time. We'll see. Only 2 laps to go here on Frozen Fridges.
Yeah, indeed an interesting prospect in terms of the lap time that we can, the overall race time that we can have. Meanwhile, we can have a battle for top 3 actually being unfolded right here that we can watch on screen, with Cap currently sitting 3rd but being threatened by Otak and Carl. We also see a little further behind the duo of Snow and Enner battling with each other and trying to catch up. Otak slowing down a fair bit, allowing Snow to catch back up to the battle for top 5. Meanwhile, it's Carl taking advantage of Otak's mistake to move through to P4 and continue to make it a two-way fight for the top 3 position versus Cap. Meanwhile, Granati and Worker are not giving themselves a niche.
Look at this. Worker is getting a lot closer to Granati now. It was 0.4 of a second. He's made it down to 0.2 going into the last lap. And Worker, who crashed really early on the first map, if he could run away on a win on this map, he would be right back into that top 4 contention that he needs. But Granati here with more speed at the exit of the lap makes it 0.4 of a second that it was. And this is a demanding enough lead that Granati should be able to hold this against Worker. Worker probably going to try here though, as these are very valuable points. 20 points for first, only 14 for second place, so worth the push here. Only 0.3 of a second now as they're entering the dirt part, and Worker is just inching away at this, getting a few hundreds in each turn. Granati holds here, 0.25, but we're going into the identity. It's Granati in first, Worker second, Cap in third, and this is going to be the battle for the win now.
Yeah, we're going to be heading through to the identity right now, right here from my perspective. Granati, Worker, and Cap actually. Cap catching up to Worker. Worker slowing down a fair bit, and that could potentially give the opportunity for Cap to actually go through and move through to second place. Meanwhile, Granati tries to safeguard that first place, and you can see the back end kick out on the way down the each of the U-turns, and Granati's got a really good exit out of there. Is he going to be able to keep it through the trees? He's going to be able to do so, and Granati wins. Worker will keep that second place. Cap finishing in P3, and Cap takes the fastest lap with the 104.709. Carl in P4, Snow in P5, Otak 6th, Enter 7th, Hydra in P8, Jean-René in 9th, Uta in 10th, Solia in P11, Energize in 12th, Nixotica 13th, Wozil 14th, Dark 15th, and Revel finishing in last place.
Yeah, wow, 6:33. They're going fast here. That is within 2 seconds of the world record on the track, so very impressive. Granati now with back-to-back wins at the demanding 40 points versus the others with 18 through 3 points. So Granati, what a great step has been so far for him. And what he said wasn't the best map pack for him, but he's really showed up so far. 3 maps to go. And we're now going on to a mystery map. We don't know which one it is.
Yeah, we don't know which one it is.
Seconds.
By the way, it must be noted that you heard Wirtual calling everyone going through the identity. Well, we were a little bit like 4 to 5 seconds, a little bit further, a little bit earlier on. So yeah, sorry a bit for the delay. We can't really do anything about that again due to connection, due to how the internet works basically. But we're heading into map number 3, and we're getting out of the way with the second POPOUETTE map, that being PICICLE by POPOUETTE, and this has been used from step 1 through 3, and this is the only map. I know this might be a little bit of a personal thing for me because I already canceled for that player before in Grand League, but this is the only map where Twin actually won in the Trackmania Grand League season. It must be noted.
Yeah, true. Going on to PICICLE, this is a map that I wasn't actually expecting we'd see again, but it was chosen for the playoffs. And now we're going to see it a lot through this weekend and the next weekend. And it is sort of a nice sight to see it back here, PICICLE, because this track is a raw pace track. There's not too many random parts. Whoever wins this race will win it through sheer force alone here and daring to take the best lines. One of the most interesting parts here is coming up after this turn, where the players will land on the sideways dirt here and try to jump in between the trees. Just that small gap that you can see there, jumping in. Looks like they all got it here without mistakes. But there's still 6 times in a row that they have to do that jump. And also we have some very precise sea-resistant jumps coming up after these turns, where they're now going to try to avoid some trees in the way and see if they can set themselves up towards the ending of the lap with the identity.
So, currently heading towards the end of lap number 1, we're seeing Granati with the and we have someone who's dead, and that's Hydra, who had a really bad landing through here. He was in P5 at the exit of at the entry to the checkpoint. He's down to P15 as a result of that scruffy landing. Now the identity, ice U-turns, where you go back towards into the booster and try to get as much booster as you can, then make the same exact thing for the other side. Granati going for a late U-turn as soon as he hits the booster, and Solia with the best technique so far on lap number 1 takes the lead with a 111.804. Worker in P2 and Granati right there with him in 3rd place. Then we got the 2 B-Genius teammates, Ener and Energize, alongside Snow, battling for 4th place right now.
Yeah, I just want to quickly point out Cap there, very unfortunate 10-second mistake. He jumped right into the line of a tree, was forced to respawn, coming up right after this part, the next tree. So he's now out of the fight after that beautiful race he had on Frozen Fridges. But once again, we see Soldier, we see Granati, we see Worker. Among the top 3 players, are these the faces that we are going to see consistently up there. They're so far driving really well. Grenady, though, low speed in this part, has to now adapt his line. Looks awkward. Has to release here.
Oh, he touches the CP!
And that is going to be quite the drop down the field now, down to what is going to be 11th, 12th place here for Grenady. So after a second place in the first lap, now dropping 10 places, but it is only a 2-second gap, which can be recovered on the track. Just want to make sure to not go too far on the booster. I think Utah almost fell off there at the end of the booster, but he made it. And we're going into the third lap now. So far, Worker in first by a second, Soldier in second place, and Snow dropping down from third place.
Yeah, Worker is gaming all the way through that second lap. He managed to actually, well, he inherited the lead thanks to Granadi's slowdown and absolute catastrophe of a jump afterwards. But Worker is currently gaming, extending his gap to around 0.8 of a second right now as Solia tries to reel him in bit by bit. Solia is not giving up without a fight just yet into lap number 3, and yeah, big mistake from Granadi, who slipped down to P10, who can still recover though. So yeah, nothing is for certain in Trackmania. As I like to say, anything can happen, and it usually does whenever we are in Trackmania. And actually, something pretty interesting is happening with Snow energizing Carl. Carl slowing down a fair bit to make the jump, allowing Dark to go through and try to battle for P5. But you can see Solia is no longer alone in the battle for second place, and he might have some pressure from Energize and Snow as well, as we're heading through the identity right now for the third time. Worker with a gap of 0.8 of a second right now, and going for the second U-turn, and it's going really good. Oh, some people are actually going really far down there and almost falling off the map. So far, Worker still in the lead by almost a second compared to Solia, and still with the fastest lap of a 107.826.
And take note of this, ladies and gentlemen. Grenady, who was 12th place, is now up to 8th place. And considering Worker's lead here, he's not really too far from climbing up the field and advancing even further. The next target being Carl here, who's only 0.2 ahead. So Grenady, despite that mistake that we talked about, this is not a bad showing from him. Already advancing half the field, and looks like he could get a few more spots. Very positive surprises here are, of course, Revolution, who has been last place in the first 2 races. Now top 6, where we, I think, expected to see Revolution, one of the fastest players, as there have been some mistakes. Snow with low speed, Soldier with low speed, makes that a 4th place for Revolution now into the identity, and with this line, he could go all the way up to 2nd place. Very nice to see him here. Dark as well, driving a fantastic race so far. Only 4 points overall, and they need this badly if they're going to stay in contention for that super final later on tonight.
Yeah, indeed, and so far you can see Revolution trying to split the Frenchmen apart, trying to prevent this from being a French 1-2-3 at the end of the race, but a bit of a awkward line here from Revolution, forced to go a little bit wide, maybe release a little bit at the exit of the freewheel part. It allows Dark to move through, and Solia, who's had low speed at the end of lap number 4, is now back within contention for 3rd place versus Revo. Meanwhile, Granadi has dropped a few places down. He's down to P10, and we also see Hydra dropping down to P15. You can see some of the big mistakes happening from Ener, Wazir, Joronnet, Hydra, and Capwar down at the bottom of the scoreboard. That should be able to make it to the finish line, hopefully with the timer of a minute that we have after the first player crosses the finish line. And so far, the man who is a candidate to do that is Worker, who's currently driving superbly on PICICLE as we're moving through the identity in the space of a few seconds. Dark in P2, around 8/10 down, but you can see Solia and Revo battling really hard for 3rd place.
Yeah, and it is going to be very interesting now. If Worker can get this win, he will get very close to Grenadi's overall 40 points. Also, Soldier here going to climb very far up the scoreboard with 12 points added to these 18. So it's all coming down to this last lap. We're going into it now. Freewheeling section has to be done very well, and Revolution there barely managing to overtake 3rd place in Soldier. They've been so close now for about 2 laps, and Worker's lead is shrinking ever slightly. It was 0.8 of a second, now down to 0.5, 0.6. Through the trees we're going one more time, and they're all going to get it here. Lining up for the uphill drift. Let's see what happens. Soldier extending the lead over Revolution now to about a car length, maybe even looking to overtake Dark in this tech section. Have to push very hard for speed in this dirt uphill to try to make it all the way up to that 2nd place. Doesn't really get it. Dark holds on. Good speed here. Now the jump where you can't really see the tree. The closer you go, the better. Worker Looks like he get it up top. Dark in second place, Revolution in third, and Soldier dropping down a little bit. 0.2 behind. One identity to go. This is where it will be decided here on PICICLE.
Will it be could be a French 1-2, or will it be a Belgian on the podium, or will it be a German on the podium? It looks as though Solia got overtaken by Revo, but it could be a really hard battle towards the end of the identity. Worker will win ahead of Dark. Revo has got the placing and will win ahead of Solia. So Worker, Dark, Revo, and Solia your top 4. Snow in P5, Carl in P6, Otak P7, Granadi managing to keep himself in the top 8. Uta in P9, Noxotica P10. Good performance by the American driver. NR 11th, Energize in 12. Hydra finishing in P13. Well, finishing in P13. He's about to head to the final part of the identity right now. There he goes across the line to record P13. P14 coming in for Wozil from GameWord, P15 coming in from Jean-René, and it will be the non-scoring finish for Cap. Really devastating for him. He will not have the time. He might not have the time to reach the identity just yet. There's 15 seconds remaining. Let's see if he actually manages to go through. It might be a bit too tight on time.
It's going to be very close. I think the finish timeout is 60 seconds exactly. He's 60.4 behind, so
5, 4. And
yeah,
he actually touched and retired, and that's going to be a no score for Cap, who's going to plummet down the standings all the way down to P10 as a result of that non-finish. Granadi, meanwhile, 45 points in the lead. Worker, 36 points for him in second place, and Solia currently completed with the top 3. Good performance so far from Solia, despite a bit of a complicated mid-maps, should I say, over the course of the first 3 races that we had.
And remember this, there are no points being lost in this match, no point loss being had at all. The points just keep stacking here, so it's very important that you play well throughout the step. Granadi looking best so far with 45 points. Then we also had Soldier looking really good, and now Revolution climbing really far with that 3rd place. We're now going on to reversing. This is the 4th and the penultimate map in the step here. So far we have Granadi, Worker, Soldier, Otak, Carl, and Revolution, who's climbed up to 9th place. Still in contention. It's very close between 4th place all the way down to 10th place, really, you could say, with just 7 points gap there. And it is being fought for the top 4 spots here. Those players will go into the super final. So going on to reversing here, what are our expectations?
Well, I think it's gonna be a little bit difficult to say, really, because this map can be a bit iffy, especially in its identity comprising of a reverse part that you have to angle your car at a certain you have to keep your car at a certain angle to keep a slide in to be able to go past the reverse booster. Otherwise, you're just going to be shot back out of the booster. Afterwards, you're going to have, of course, a U-turn, and then a cheeky J-turn to perform on an ice patch to get your car back up and running in the right position. Right now, we're following Revolution at the tail end of the field. No big mistake so far in the start of lap number 1. We see someone going a bit wide, that being Jean-René. He will drop down to P16. Meanwhile, up front, it is going to be still super close, as it is still the opening lap. We're going to be heading through to the second part of the map right now, with the identity coming up in a few seconds.
Yeah, and the identity on this track, the obstacle is very special. Otak with a mistake dropping down the field.
The bubble
might not have the speed. Let's see if they can get up. They have to land backwards on this ramp and drive backwards, because as Geek mentioned, there is a booster here that you cannot pass if you go forwards. So they drive backwards all the way to the ice, and then spin the car around, try to stay on the road, and drive into the second lap. Looks like we didn't have too many big mistakes here.
We had someone actually dying, and that being NR. NR has actually died.
With a really big mistake, and Otak with a big mistake from earlier are our 2 victims in this first lap. Now going into the second lap, Soldier in the lead here, and Soldier looking really good. If he can get this lead to Granadi, could even contest the first place here overall in the standings if he gets 20 points over Granadi, who will only get 4 or 5. So very, very close if these positions remain, but it's still early days. There's still 5 laps, and there's a lot of driving to be had. Yeah,
we're currently only on lap 2.5, should I say, as we're heading already to the second half of the map right now. It's Solia and Cap with a gap of 2/10 between first and second, and we see a battle for third between Carl and Snow right now. The 2006 World Champion trying to get himself a few more points on the board. Currently sitting in 22 with 22 points in 5th place, I think it was. And still looking good for a super final spot at the end of the day. Going through the identity right now from the perspective of the 2006 World Champion. Solia, Cap first and second. Cheeky little J-turn. Who will get the J-turn the best? It seems as though Cap has managed to keep it together and will be able to go through into the lead. But Solia with a faster lap time, overtaking him before the first checkpoint, and a 101.663 for Solia as Carl secures that 3rd position. Meanwhile, we see one of the big contenders actually, 2nd place in the standings, Worker, down to P10.
Yeah, Worker clipped the checkpoint just a little bit there. And one small mistake in this field. There haven't really been any big mistakes. So we're looking at one small touch of the wall and you're down to 12th place. That is how close it is right now. On reversing, just also want to point out, I saw Carl has a bit of a special line in the identity. Really loved his approach. It looked rather safe, where he tries to line up this jump. Look closely now. He lines it up all the way from the left side of the grass here. Jumps high and still keeps a decent amount of speed. So it was very early up. Tries to land a clean gap to make the jump and still keeps really good speed. Almost overtaking Soldier now. So that is something he's found, and it's working out really beautifully for him so far in this race. That should be an overtake. More speed across the ice. Beautiful turnaround, but he jumps a little bit, and Soldier holds on into the next lap here. As we do see Utah dropping. I think he's failed to turn around all the way down to last. And Energize being overtaken. Not a big mistake, though. 2 laps to go now on reversing.
2 laps to go, and you were right indeed to point out the little bit of airtime that Carl caught just before the start-finish line is enough to actually sap that little bit of speed that was enough to actually keep Solia behind. And so far he's actually dropped down to 3rd place over the course of the opening section of lap number 4 versus Cap. But look at this, 1/10, one single tenth, even less than a tenth between 1st and 3rd. They're within each other's gearboxes right now, heading through the identity on lap number 4. Otak currently sitting in P12 with a 1:01.416, hold the fastest lap. Both Cap and Solia taking the bobble, Carl going against it. Meanwhile, we're going through the identity right now from the perspective of the world champion right now. Let's see how this goes. Nice line through the reverse booster now onto the ice. Who's going to get the J-turn? Cap with much more speed at the entrance of the J-turn. He's going to make it a 2-for-1 deal potentially before the start of lap number 5. No, it's not going to work. Solia still holding the lead by around a 10.5 to Cap and Carl sitting in P3.
And Soldier's holding on to this lead like it's made of gold. He's really, really trying his best here, and it is made of gold. It could take him all the way to the Grand League if he can just stay ahead. It's only 0.1, 0.2 of a second. Cap there with so much speed at the end of the lap, just managing to keep his wheels on the ground, to keep traction, to keep accelerating. Trackmania is a lot about reducing air time. That's why they take the lines they do, to try to stay on the road as much as possible. Right now, though, so close between these three. Grenadi has advanced the field a little bit up to 6th place. Want to point that out. He was down in 12th after the first lap, so he is looking to get some good points in this race himself. But let's see now the battle for first. Carl once again going super high, but can't afford to take this inside approach on the grass, and it does even out. Let's see who dares to build up the most speed before the ice. It looks to be Cap once again, shooting ahead. Can he hold that though? It is again Soldier who extends out of the lap. Once again in first, new fastest lap, 101.3. And now there's just 1 lap to go on reversing.
1 lap to go, and Carl's exit from the identity on lap 5 looked to be a little bit scruffy, and yeah, he dropped a little bit of pace initially, but Cap has dropped a lot of pace as well. Low landing from Carl, that could have been a little bit catastrophic if it went a little bit too low. Meanwhile, you were right for pointing out Granadi's pace, managing to get back up into the top 5 at some point, but so far, he's dropped a little bit the ball compared to Worker, Energize, and Snow that are up ahead, who are currently battling for P4 right now in this race. Meanwhile, Cap and Carl battling for 2nd position. This could be a map win for Solia right now from Team Numelovs as we're heading to the identity for the 6th and final time in this race. Cap getting a bit of a double. Oh, 2 wheels! That could allow Carl through. As will he be able to keep the pace though? Will he be able to keep the placing? Is the gap going to be enough? Solia, meanwhile, controls the race.
Low speed. He's getting overtaken.
Oh my god, Cap is completely crumbling.
For first though, Soldier versus Carl. It's going to be Soldier. Carl in 2nd. I think Snow takes 3rd here.
Yeah, Snow
Cap
3rd.
managing to get 5th place just behind Energized, but completely falling apart in the end there of reversing.
Worker 6th, Granadi and Revolution finishing in the top 8. Hydra 9th, Otak 10th, NR 11th, Nixeltic at 12th. Jean-René 13th, Wizil 14th, Utah finishing in P15, and Dark finishing in last position. But yeah, nice, but yeah, Cap crumbling at the end of lap number 6. Such a shame for him, who was looking to secure that 2nd spot and get some decent points on the board. He's just given that opportunity to Carl, who moves on to 36 points for himself and moves up to P4. Meanwhile, Granadi still holds the lead of the standings with 51. But look at Solia, 48 points for him and 43 for Worker. It's still a really close battle between the top 3 and even the top 4.
And what an exciting last map we have now. We're going on to Slalom. This will decide the OGL finals to see who goes on to the super final to face off versus McQuattro, versus Rossi, versus Binks, and versus Stofalt, the regular season winner of Open League. This is the deciding map here. Slalom coming right up. And wow, this is going to be very close as well. Looking at the scoreboard, So many players are in contention here. As long as they get among the top 3 positions, anything could really happen here on Slalom.
Yeah, indeed. And Slalom is a bit of a peculiar map, and I'm going to be showing you once I get the HUD back in. There you go. Now, as you know, there are actually 3 slaloms being shown in this map. So the first one is this one between the dirt, on the dirt right here, which is pretty tight. It can be a bit treacherous if you mess up one of the lines. Then there's the one on the bump road over the reactor boost. But then you get the real Monka-S part, which is this one with a huge ice U-turn. It's easy to actually go a little bit overboard and actually fall on the other side, or maybe it'll get a little bit too low and completely mess up this slalom afterwards. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. The final map of the final of OGL is going on right here, right now. We're underway.
And just again want to point out Soldier here, who got a personal best, the 2nd fastest time in the world for this track in 6 laps format, just an hour before the match. And Soldier right now sitting in 2nd place, looking very good for that super final. Still needs to do some driving here, but his raw pace is there on paper. Also, Worker and Otak have very good personal bests here that were set just a little before the match. And Otak, he isn't in the top 4 right now. He is currently 9 points behind Carl for that 4th place spot. But it is not impossible if you can get out a good run on this track.
Right as I talked about the first slalom, Jean-René completely wrong and clips the final pole and the final flag, and Carl messes it up as well in the reactor boost one. So yeah, we can see 2 victims of the first 2 slaloms. Now we're going through the identity now. We've got Granati, Cap, and Solia. 1, 2, 3 at the moment. NR in P4. Following the perspective of NR right now. Who's going to fall off? Oh, Otak clips on the other side. Otak might be having to respawn. Meanwhile, Granati has got the fastest exit of them all. He's got a gap of 4 tenths to Solia with that exit, that jump. Jesus Christ. 105.554 for Granati. Solia in P2. Then we got NR, Worker, and Energize battling for the top 3 positions with Snow just right behind them.
And so much for Otak's comeback there. Does not getting to work here in the first lap. Clips on the uphill. Very unfortunate. And he's maybe already out of the contention, but let's take a look at Energize, who could still make something happen here. Together with Snow, they're just out of the fight for that 4th place with a few points behind Carl. But right now, they are beating him in this race, and if they can continue to do that and score high, then they could maybe get just barely into the top 4 overall rankings. Going up the hill now, very important to get good speed through this turn, set yourself up for that identity, and then you're just going to have to get out a little prayer and hope that your car stays on the ice all the way down the hill between the flags.
Okay, here we go.
With no mistakes. Here we go.
My goodness,
we got Hydra.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's the car I thought. Uta as well, completely messing up. Meanwhile, Granati currently holding the lead. But look at how Solia catches up to him in the final part of the jump before the start-finish line. This is absolutely crazy to see. Solia in P2, Snow in P3, and meanwhile, Energize has fallen down to P7, battling with Carl at the moment, NR and Worker in P4 and P5 respectively. Granati currently holding the lead by 3 tenths from the Belgian.
And Cap as well, looking for that Tmgl comeback. This is looking very, very unlikely now, as he's in 14th place, 10 seconds behind, and would need to score better than Carl here, who is the gatekeeper right now for that super final. If you can't beat Carl, then you cannot go into the Trackmania Grand League Super Finals coming up later. So right now, he's doing well for himself in that 6th place, about to overtake Worker for 5th place. Does not really matter, as long as he can stay ahead of Energize, is his main opponent right now. 3rd identity, 3rd uphill on the ice, have to turn around.
Oh, Carl! Carl is dead!
Comeback, a good save, I think, if he can just make it down the hill.
Oh, look at Solia going for the lead battle. Solia again with that speed for 3 laps straight. He's catching up to Granati, and now Granati has got a fight on his hands versus the Belgian. Even though Snow still has the fastest lap with a 102.283, Solia has got a much better exit from the identity, and he's going to go full on to try and challenge for the lead and the win of this particular OGL final right here. Look at this, they're within each other.
Oh, but it is such a disaster for Carl. He dropped all the way to 13th place, and now anything could happen. If Energize scores like 10 points here, or let's say 14, I think he'd need 14, but Snow is the main one here. Snow at 31 points, only 5 points behind Carl in the overall rankings. He will get that here with the 3rd place. He will be able to get to the super final as long as he keeps this position. Right now, looking very good for him, but as you mentioned, the battle for the top 2 here, it needs to be mentioned, but I think both Granati and Soldier are through here with their performance. Great turnarounds for both. Looks like they have this mastered down, and they are going to go side by side into the 2nd last lap here. Where is Snow? Currently in 3rd place. which will be enough if he can hold this for just 2 more laps here.
Yeah, he's battling for third with Worker right now. Worker is right there with him, within a tenth of him, and Ener has dropped out quite simply down to P5. Energize, his teammate, is in P6. We got Dark and Revo a bit further behind in P8, and the gaps have quite spread out, except for the lead battles between top one, but for first position and for third, even though Granati is trying to pile on the pressure and try to pounce a little bit, try to extend the gap to Solia as we go through the slalom right here between the dirt. Nicely done. Half a second of a gap between Granati and Solia in first and second. Meanwhile, Worker and Snow still within a tenth of each other, with Worker trying to overtake actually Snow at the reactor boost party. He makes the move stick before how long? We're coming on to the penultimate identity for now, as Karl is slowly moving back up the field. He's currently sitting in P9, 11 seconds down on the leaders, but will he be able to actually catch up a little bit more than that to keep his super final place alive? We'll have to wait and see. Final lap coming in. Granati taking the fastest lap of the race at the entry to lap 6 with a 101.995 for the wheel player from Germany.
Yeah, Granati looking very, very solid here. He wants that super final. I think he even had it secured before this race started, the way he's been playing today. 51 points, looking for 71 would be a huge point score in just 5 races. Soldier in second, Snow in third right now. A very close battle between him and Worker in this last lap. They're not really fighting for much though. They're just fighting for survival, not so much between each other. And you're in 5th place here, a good showing. Bit too far for him to make anything happen in the overall standings, but definitely showed that he's capable of keeping up with these guys.
Granati failed it at the reactor boost part! This could give the win to Solia right here, the win of the final! And could this actually have repercussions for the super final spot? I don't think so, but Solia has managed to take advantage of a mistake from Granati. Meanwhile, Snow and Worker are heading into the identity right now between each other, and it's going to be Snow in P2 at the exit. Solia wins the final of OGL with Snow in P2, Worker P3, Ener P4, Energize in P5. Granati will finishing P6 at the end of it. Then we got Revolution finishing ahead of Dark. Going through the identity right now, 7th for Revo, Dark in P8, Karl finishing in P9, Jean-René getting overtaken by Otak, so Otak in P10, Jean-René in P11, Uta in P12, Nixotica P14 at the end with Hydra sniping in for P13 thanks to a bonk to the flag from Nixotica, Cap in P15, and Wuzil will finish in P16 at the end of this race. Let's actually check in on the overall standings. Granati will be... Actually, it's going to be a tie... Well, I don't know. It's going to be who came first, but it's going to be a tied points situation between Solia and Granati, who are going to move through to the super final alongside Worker and Snow just for 4 points. Unfortunately, we're going to miss Karl.
It was that mistake from Karl, the identity, that cost him there. 4 points difference, but the top 4 are Soldier, Granati, Worker, and Snow. They are your super finalists that will soon, in about 20 minutes, face off versus Default, versus Rossi, versus Binks, and McQuattro. And we will see who is potentially going to go through to the Trackmania Grand League.